So the commoners who had hired the beginning converters to help them save the souls of their loved ones, they were actually the ones whose souls were entrapped there. And then once their souls were entrapped, sooner or later their bodies would go to this location and get entrapped into statues. And a god freed them from their entrapment and told them, hey, if you go find replacements, those with convention, you can be freed from your entrapment. So they went out and found people to lure here to entrap. Just like how all before, like souls would be lured here and entrapped and feasted upon, and or fiends would be created from this place and sent out to basically feed the main being, the god here. This god basically sent them out to go collect more converters to bring here and be feasted upon. Luckily, the male lead is there and he takes care of them and gets information out of them. And one of them tried getting the main character, and that's why the male lead stepped in first, was because this person tried to lay hands on his husband and he wasn't going to have it. He wasn't going to let anyone harm his husband, and he took care of the problem. And then he took care of the other problems. Supposedly, the fallen god of this location, once he had fallen and returned back to his location, he had got feasted upon by fiends. Saddened by this death of his student, his master made a tomb for him, made a shrine for him. But the main character, he thinks this is a little suspicious, especially when he sees all what's going on in this tomb, and then they find 33 statues of supposed figures, and these figures basically being used to entrap the fallen god here. If this fallen god had such a great relationship with his master, why would his master do this? Entrap him here. And this being has been using these people, basically going around creating fiends, monsters, devouring what these fiends and monsters devour for him, to basically break his seal, break all of these 33 god seals. But at the same time, he was trying to have converters brought here to strengthen the seal. So he was basically mismatch of what he was doing. He either wanted it broken, but at the same time, he didn't want it broken because his master's last words were entombed with this. So if he got rid of the seal, he would lose his master at the same time. So here's the history, the true history of the fallen god. So he lost his family because his family, specifically his father, was framed for horrible crimes by 33 different families or 33 different people. I'm not sure which one it was, but specifically that many. He had to go on his own and suffer on his own. And the group of people he was traveling with, who were in the same dire situations as he, slowly were picked off by fiends and starvation and the horrible location they were in, and he was the only survivor, and he almost died by the hands of a fiend when his master came on and saved him. And his master supposedly was friends with his father and watched all the suffering, because again, like in Heaven's official blessing, the gods can't really do anything to stop certain events. He was unable to help his friend, and this still angers the child, that he doesn't even show emotions to what happened to his friend. Like, he understands that maybe a god can't help, but a god should at least show emotions to the affections of what happens to his loved ones, and he doesn't even show anything over it. And this god picks him up and takes him to his clan and just basically abandons him there. And the rest of the clan really won't teach him anything because, again, he's technically their ancestors' disciple. So only he can really teach him. And this dude, he technically refuses to teach the fallen god because this fallen god has anger towards those who had done him wrong and his family wrong, and he refuses to teach him until he lets go of this anger. And so he lets go of the anger, quote unquote, lets it go, and trains himself. He literally learns by himself. No one teaches him. He has to learn by himself because his own teacher won't teach him, because his teacher at first says, I can't teach you because of your anguish and anger, but then still won't teaches him after, because again, he's a god and he has godly duties to do, so he can't be constantly there to teach a kid. So this kid learns by himself and becomes a god all by himself, and becomes a god, the youngest person to become a god. Basically, like the main character from Heaven's Official Blessing, he was super young when he became a god. So he becomes a god, he follows the restrictions and regulations. Once he's gifted to them, he's perfectly fine following them. He meets the 12 gods. There's gods, then the 12 gods, then the male lead, and the person who has the same status as the male lead, which I had theorized was the main character, and it ended up being correct on my theory. It reveals that it was the main character, and the main character just doesn't remember his time as a god. Because again, when the main character comes around statues, idols of gods, he's not affected the same way his underlings are. And you could say, oh, it's because he's really powerful, so the thing that would affect his underlings wouldn't affect him. And I'm like, no, he had to be more. Like, I was suspicious of the main character, and then I was revealed to be correct about my suspicions because I thought he was more. And when this character was revealed, I'm like, that's the main character, right? Like, that's the main character. He just doesn't remember. Either the main character died and was reincarnated, or he just completely forgot who he was. But I was like, that's the main character. But yes, he meets these two beings, and he forms a connection and relationship to the main character's old self. He would visit the person, and he didn't really have much of a relationship and bond with the male lead, but he would meet up with the male lead more than other gods would. He also would try to make his master smile or be angry. Like, he either wanted to make an expression, didn't matter what the expression was, but he wanted to make an expression on his master's face. But the only time he truly got to see his master angry was when he starts going around and getting rid of those who did him wrong. And his master was furious at him for it. Now, he wasn't thrown out of the heavens for getting rid of the 33 people or 33 families who framed him. He wasn't punished for that. It's only when he continues to go down the wrong path. Basically, when he sees getting rid of these people affects other people and ruining other people's lives, and he tries getting revenge and helping these people out, he keeps adding more to his punishment and more. And sooner or later, the main character has to step in and strip him of his godhood, which is basically pulling out his core and using the dream bell that the Doctor's clan had to make him forget every being a god, which he used his own powers to stop forgetting. Like, for a while he did forget, but then he starts remembering. Which, talking about this fallen god made me think of the main couple from Heaven's Official Blessing, because he's literally a mixture of both of them. Like, doesn't he remind you of both of them? Like, he's just them, just as one person. Like, he could be literally their love child. He feels like their love child. A love child that ends up having a worse fate than both of his parents, but he feels just like them. Remember how I said that this fallen god died by the hands of a group of fiends? No, that was a clone of him. So once he had fallen and remembered who he was, he ended up coming across a fiend. This fiend tries fighting him for his body, but he ends up winning, and sooner or later he becomes an archfiend, and he uses his powers as an archfiend to do the things he wished he could have done as a god. And he's been enjoying his life as an archfiend. But he also, like I said, he's having a hard time dealing with it too. His godhood and his archfiendhood is basically fighting with itself. He makes a clone of himself, sends it out into the world. This clone ends up in his old territory. It's the one that dies by the group of fiends. Knowing this, he goes to this location because, again, he's fighting with himself. He was even trying to get rid of his emotions so there wouldn't be this fight inside himself. But he ends up losing, his archfiendhood loses to his godhood, and he goes to this location to get rid of all of the fiends in this territory. And that's when he ends up running into his master. And he doesn't die by the hands of fiends. No, he dies by the hands of his master. And then his master seals him away. And a different story is told to the upper world of what happened.